Have you ever been ice skating and just zooming along, everything, the ice is just as smooth and beautiful as it can be, and then you hit one of those little air pockets that's underneath and your skate break through, and boom, down you are, laying on your back, staring at the universe, just being vulnerable as you can be. Well, I'll get back to that. So I handed out some brochures, some flyers, and I wanted to start with this great cosmic armor of light. And I tried to send that to all of you Zoom people, but apparently it didn't go through, so you just get to listen. I'd like to have each of you who will feel like you would like to join with me in reading this. This is a prayer that I have said every morning for a year or more. I just felt like it just spoke to my heart about protecting all of us. Beloved, I am that I am. I ask that you continuously project your shield of white light around me and others that makes me invisible, invincible, and invulnerable to the discord that is yet in this world. Hold me in your shield of light, making me more sensitive to your promptings, your guidance, and your inner light. I am, I am, I am. And I demand and I am the stillness, the calmness, the peace, the lightness, and the happiness that I am feeling in your purifying, healing flames, sealed for eternity in the great shield of white light substance. So as I said this up there where it says, and others, I started adding and others, and pretty soon I had an and others that lasted for a half an hour. But I thought, well, what else do I really have to do right now? It just seemed like a really important thing to do. So I hand that on to you. So have you ever gone skating and slipping along, everything's going good, and then you hit that little patch of air bubble or whatever it is that creates that stuff that when your skate hits it, you're flat on your back. Well, so I also, on this sheet of paper, have the 9 principles of creation. Now, I'm not going to go into a full discourse because I don't know really what the masters are saying about this. But the first 2 are kind of self-explanatory. But I wanted to talk about the number 3. So my presentation this morning includes faith, heart, trust, and healing. And I'm going to read the definition of healing. This comes from my master's people that I listen to. Healing is described as an ongoing perfecting process where we pull back all the layers and be bone naked honest with ourselves. Seemed harsh, but I went with it. So one morning early in reading that cosmic prayer and in my meditation, I was prompted to put together a photo album for my oldest granddaughter for her 34th birthday on November 15th. So I started this in October, and just with some little things. Well, then it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it ended up being 2 full albums starting in 1868 up to now, and so it was over 200 pages. And with each day that I spent time on it, I just poured bunches of love to her and reviewed my life and cried and laughed and just was so grateful for all the blessings that my life has had, including her. And so I was skating along, really good. So, but I think I've said some of these things before about Michaela, but I'm going to kind of brief you. Some of you don't know about Michaela. In 1985, I was divorced on November 15th, and on November 15th of 1986, 1 year later, Kayla was born. My oldest son was 17, and Miss T, I'll call her, the mother, was 15. And so this was a dark, bone-hard place in my life anyway. And so this presented some real dilemmas. I was working 3 jobs trying to support myself and 3 kids, and so there wasn't really a possibility for me to quit all that and take care of a baby. And Miss T's parents were in a similar situation. So Miss T decided to tell no one about it, including my son, for 7 months, or her parents. And so she decided to give my Kayla away without conferring with anybody, and including my son, who had nothing to say about it. So when all this news came down, and they weren't even dating anymore, it was really a dark time in my life. My heart was bone naked, and so was my son's. So the night that she was born, a bunch of kids called me and told me, well, she's born. And Miss T was in the hospital. And then they began ridiculing my son. And I was hurting anyway, and it was really hurtful. And then, fortunately, her parents called me, whom I had made connection with after my son had done some of his emotional work by getting drunk and getting a DUI and ended up with the night in jail. So we had made a connection at the heart. And so I can laugh about that now, and so can he, but at the time it just wasn't a bit funny. So I called them, and they called me, and so I got to know that I had a granddaughter. And I hadn't heard from my son. He was out being a teenager. And so he called me and he said, well, you have a granddaughter, Grandma, you want to come and see her at the hospital? Well, our relationship had been a little broken through this whole thing between the divorce and all this. So for him to say that, I said, I'm there, I'm on my way. He came to the door, put his arm around me, walked me in there, took me in to where he went in and put me in the waiting room and went into where they keep the babies, and brought her out. And here he is, 6'2", 200 pounds, with big long hands and arms, and he had this baby in his arm and said, isn't she beautiful, Mom? And she was. And a week later, Catholic Social Services came and got her. And it was all closed. We could send medical information or we could send gifts, but it was pretty closed. And so this was another period of really, I had no idea how to grieve. I had no idea what to do except pray. And it was my faith that carried me through and carried my son through. And I prayed for a miracle. I thought, I just couldn't bear the idea that my first grandchild was going to be given away and I would never know where she was. It was just, my heart was hurting. And the miracle happened. 4 months later, Catholic Social Services said, well, the adoptive parents had decided that this should be an open adoption, and it would be the first one in Montana, and we don't know how open it'll be, but they want to meet you and your son, and they want to have you see this child who they said they couldn't keep from us. Their hearts told them they couldn't keep her from us. But because they were setting the rules and the boundaries, then they would tell us when they wanted us to visit and how many times, and they set all the rules and the boundaries, and I really honored them. I figured anything that we got was just filled my heart full of gratitude. So I was in this glorious gratitude place, and still am most of the time, skating on that smooth ice. So my son goes to the Navy that fall, and one of the letters he writes to me says, and he wasn't much of a writer, says, "Dear Mom, how will Kayla know I love her?" Well, how could I answer that? A lot of years later, I sent another letter back, said, "How do you know I love you?" And so over the years, we've been gratefully blessed with I've probably had 12 visits with her, 12 times in some group situation, but never one-on-one, all alone, look them in the eye, have a conversation kind of experience. So I accepted that, and I got to go to her high school graduation, and I got to go to her shower for engagement and her wedding and her first baby shower, and she's beautiful, and she's a nurse, and she's a photographer, and she's a rancher wife, and she's got 2 beautiful little girls. And so I'm just skating along, grateful. And she had sent a little thank you note on Facebook for the photo albums, the way kids do these days, you know, young people. Anyway, I had no expectations of anything beyond this, just did it from my heart. Well, then, my son says to me on the phone, "Did you get your Christmas present from Wyoming?" I said, "No, we didn't get anything from Wyoming." "Well, it's coming." So then, the day after Christmas, I get these 2 letters from Cabela's saying, open it up, and it's 2 gift certificates, 1 in each, and they're substantial, and it says from Kayla with her address on it. Well, that was like trying to figure it out. I tried to call him, I tried to call her, no answer, but walking around kind of in a daze going, wow, what is this? And the tears just started running, and I couldn't stop them, and I'm in my heart bone naked again going, what's going on? And it was like, it wasn't about the gift certificates. It wasn't about her. It was about hitting this pocket, this little reservoir of space that I had covered over with gratitude that said, what do you really want? What do you really desire? I desire one-on-one time with her as woman to woman, who's just like I have with my next granddaughter. I had never admitted that to myself. I never admitted it to the universe. I had never even really, I didn't know it was under there. And so it might seem strange that I would share this because the gifts weren't from Kayla, but they were, because I got to look deeper in my heart. And so in the healing process of this, in the tears, in the vulnerability, I feel more whole. And it's for sure, I'm going to stick that in my letter. And I'm not going to be shy about it. What I really desire, not what I want, let's bump up the energy on that word. What I really desire is that deeper one-on-one connection with this young woman that's my first grandchild. And so as you prepare to write your letters, as you become receptive to anything that was jarred as I tell this story, as you go there in whatever it is that comes to you, I invite you to not go alone, to take the light of God with you that always fulfills, the love of God, the light of God that is never ending, the love of God that always fulfills, and the truth of God that is always present. And allow that to fill the space. It was my faith in those beliefs that helped me fill the space to be to this place where I can say, oh, This has been a wonderful awakening experience. And I think as this whole, I call it grief, herd grief. They're talking about herd immunity, but I'm calling this herd grief. While this event is going on in the world, it seems like the pressure's coming down on each one of us, no matter how skating along we are, that there's possibly still some little pockets of some things that you and I need to clear out and maybe fill up with our tears so when it ices over, it's smooth again. And at the same time, I believe that energetically, when I heal and you heal, we heal out there into the space of the country, of the nation, of the world. And so I think we're ready to have a little quiet time before we go into writing. So if you would join me in just putting your hand over your heart if that feels appropriate, and if not, don't. And closing your eyes and going in there to that place, that deep place that is the I am that God is. And just take a couple of deep breaths. Being grateful for the gift of life. I'm not saying forget being grateful. We have to be grateful sometimes to get to those places beneath the surface. And if there's any little patch of anything on your smooth sailing that's caught your attention, we don't have to stay there. Embracing it briefly, letting your feelings come forward briefly, writing a letter to your heart briefly that says, yep, that's the bare naked truth, and I'm okay with it. And instead of saying need and want, I say require and desire. And so as you write your letters, I just invite you to consider using those words. And so we'll end this with another deep breath, and you have your papers and you have your pens. And so we'll take the quiet time and write our letter to our heart. Oh. Okay, so if you haven't done the letters before, I think everybody's about done. What we do is write them and put our own name on the outside, and then Unity will mail them back to us next year at the end of December, so we can review our letter to our heart, okay? So if you, Roger had the basket there to put it in, and those of you who are at home, you're welcome to stash it someplace so that you can get it next year, or, I don't know, did you have something, Linda, to instruct them to do something different than that? The Zoomers?
If they want to just drop it by the church, then I can mail it back at the end of the year. Or I said in the email they can put it in with their Christmas decorations and find it then next year.
Okay. So those you may not have, those of you out there may not have heard that. You can keep it yourself. and open it next year, or you can send it to the church or drop it by or something, and then it'll be mailed back to you next year. It's always interesting to see what we said and then to see what the year brought for us, and to kind of renew our intentions for what it is that we want to do and what we want to be in life. One of the things that I recently heard was that as we move into this new time, this new age, that the energy of the last age was to be or not to be. That is the question. And the new age says be to be. It's not about if, it's about do it. Be kind. Jesus said, be nice. Do those, just be those things that you are the gift to be to the world. So I thank you for participating in this, and I felt the energy lift. So also thank Spirit for, and Mother Mary for giving me the courage to say what I had to say. I hope that in some way your heart will be broader so that you can go forth this year and share your gifts more readily. And so I want to finish here by rereading the Great Cosmic Armor of Light again, and invite you to really think about what the promptings, the guidance, and inner light, being sensitive to that means. You know, for years I was told I was too sensitive. And I used to say, well, if everybody was more sensitive, that the world wouldn't be in such a mess that it is. So I hold to that one as feels like truth to me. And it's a good thing. It's a blessing to the world to be sensitive, to be paying attention to the promptings, the inner guidance, that inner light. And sometimes it doesn't feel like what we want to do. To get a prompting to do something or be something, and then it's like, we're going to argue with it. Well, I invite you to not argue with it, to really become aware in the moment of what you're being prompted to do. After you spend time in prayer and meditation, which seems to be the basic need that we have, then you confirm something that you desire, but then when you get these little promptings, you want to argue with them. So I invite you to be more open with what you hear, what you feel, what you get. So please join with me again. Beloved, I am that I am. I ask that you continuously project your shield of white light around me and others that makes us invisible, invincible, and invulnerable to the discord that is yet in this world. Hold us in your shield of light, making us more sensitive to your promptings, your guidance, and your inner light. I am, I am, I am, and I demand and I am the stillness, the calmness, the peace, the lightness, and the happiness that I am feeling, living in your purifying, healing flames, sealed for eternity in the great shield of white light substance. And so as we go forth into the new year, being all those things, let's join together and do what I'm supposed to say, the light of God. Prayer of protection. But we'll do it twice, because the cosmic armor of light is prayer protection, in other words. So the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God watches us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.